I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. Understanding the life of all those microbes that live within us and around us is crucially important to be healthy and thrive. Don't miss the next episode of this subject. My dear friends, I'm Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. And once again, I'm here with you with this blog, with this podcast that I'm always produce thinking of you. Every day, every time I see a patient, every time I go to a hospital, I always wonder, what I should tell people to stop them from coming to the hospital as a sick individual? How can I help them to be healthy and thriving and enjoy and have a very happy, long life without pain, without suffering? And this comes because every day when I see a patient, and I have said this a million times, I many times think, what would have happened if I had seen this person 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and I could have made changes in their lives. And of course, neither you nor I can go back in time and say, let's make these changes. However, there are many strategies that we can implement to help change whatever mistakes we have done in the past. And we all have people that we take care of, particularly younger people. And if we train them, and if we teach them, and if we guide them, they will probably start doing a lot earlier what we should have done before. And to do that, we have to understand ourselves. We have to know our bodies. We have to know what's good and what's bad. Of course, we know off the top of the head good things like cod liver oil and bad things like cigarette smoking. But it goes way beyond that. Biocaring a human body goes way beyond that. We have to understand a lot of things. And today I'm going to talk about something that we mentioned, that it is in our everyday conversation. And I always wonder how much you really know about it. And I'm talking about the flora, the bacterial world, the microbes that live around us. It's generally referred to as the microbiota. Microbiota refers to every single living thing. Could be a virus, could be a bacteria, could be a fungus, could be anything that lives in close proximity to the human body or within the human body and has a very friendly relationship and in many times very supportive relationship. We live in a microbial world. Microbes were here before, long before we started on Earth, and I'm sure they will be the last ones in our environment. Why? Because they're very small, they're tiny, they have very few needs, so for them it's very easy to survive. And one ability that the bacterial world has and the microbial world has is mutation. They can, if anything gets nasty, they change in a different form, in a different function, and so on. And we know it. We know it because you and I have been living with the common flu for many, many years, for all our lives, and then even those that get a vaccine, well, might not be the vaccine that you got the type of infection we're going to get next year. That's why it is always that question, should I do it, shouldn't I do it? Because we are not sure exactly what type of virus is going to attack next year. Because they just mutate. They can do a lot of things with that. That's how they secure survival. but they're nevertheless very close to the human life. The microbiota is a huge amount of microbial cells that live in or around our body. We have them in the skin, we have them in the mouth, we have them in the hair follicles, we have in our groins, everywhere. And what to talk about the internal world? Our mouth, our nostrils, even the sinuses, and of course, the biggest amount, the one that's denser, the one that has the most variety and an assortment of things, is the intestinal tract. We know that we have more microbial cells in our body than the human cells we have to make up our body. In other words, we have a bigger amount of commensal microbial cells than the cells that our bodies really have. And this relationship has evolved through many years in such a way that we created a very synergistic society. We provide those bacteria with a lot of things. We give them shelter, heat, nourishment. We protect them. We carry them around. But on the other hand, those microbes work on our behalf. It's to their advantage. Having a healthy human is going to guarantee a healthier living for our microbes. So they look after us too. They produce a lot of useful substances. They produce, like for example, certain vitamins. They produce important chemicals that help the body to function well. They fight other microbes. Like for example, there is a staphylococcus type of bacteria that lives on our skin. And you probably have heard of something that's called the Staphylococcus aureus, which is very pathological. It creates a lot of health problems. Well, this one is going to make sure the other one doesn't come nearby, because it might overtake the control of that particular individual. So they make sure that that bad staphylococcus is not coming to this individual because this is my territory. And in that way, we can live for many years without really having a serious infection. We're going to talk later how we can really upset all that equilibrium. But in general, that's the way it works. Now, in the intestinal tract, they help us a lot. If you think you eat your food, you digest it, and you use it, think again. When we eat our food, not everything is going to be digested. There are a lot of content in the food we eat that will not be digested by our stomach and bile and etc. And all that leftover, let's call it that way, all that food that wasn't digested because we can't digest it. That's the fact. And the best example is fiber. If we ate grass, for example, when you have a big salad, most of it is not going to be digested because it's cellulose. And cellulose is hardly digested by humans. You can give it to a cow. They're going to be very happy eating grass. Actually, grass-fed cows are healthier than any other type of cow. But we don't. But we have bacteria in our gut. And when that fiber arrives, we start breaking it down and producing very important, they're some of the most important foundations for healthy living, which are some very small essential fatty acids. And one of them blocks the activity of diabetes. The other one helps produce a lot of energy to feed the cells of the intestinal tract and keep it healthy. And some of those essential fatty acids can block cancer. How important that is. That's why every time you talk to a doctor, every time you see something on TV, etc., they talk about fiber. But they don't tell you the end of this story. They don't tell you that fiber in itself would go right through, unless you have a very healthy intestinal population of microbes that are going to use that fiber, are going to digest it, and are going to turn it into energy and important compounds to block diabetes, to block cancer, and to feed our intestinal tract. Not only that, but they train our white blood cells to be more active. Why? Because they're in the intestinal tract. So they know what goes through. And they can tell the white blood cells in the intestinal wall, look, this is bad. Look, this is another one, bad one. And they create immunity. They can also produce hormone-like substances. So that's why I can tell you that a lot of the functions of our body absolutely depend on the health, on the diversity of those microbes that live in our gut. Even our mood. Many people are always in bad mood, always grouchy, always difficult. It might be their intestinal tract. When you see any of those persons, ask them. And they will probably are frequently bloated, constipated, and have problems with their tummy in general because they have a faulty intestinal flora. So if you think of it slowly and you think it leisurely, if you sit at the table and talk to your friends and family and start examining all these things, and now you can go to your computer or your cell phone and get more and more information, you're going to see how important all these bacteria are. How this life that's on us and within us gives us life, and how we have to take care of it and promote it and help it. So, with that said, I want you to follow me through this program, because the more we discover about microbes in our life, the more we love them and the more careful we're going to be with them. Don't go anywhere, stay with me. Friends, I'm talking about life on and life around us and life within us. I'm talking about the huge number, the multiplicity of microbial forms that not only live with us, but live within us and produce a lot of functions in exchange for certain favors they get from the human body. They get heat, they get room and board, because we provide with shelter and nourishment, and they get a lot of protection. We carry them around, we take them everywhere, we feed them, we make sure they're in good shape. But we receive a lot of good things from them, because this is actually a relationship, human microbiota. It's a very profitable relationship for both parties. I have said what bacteria get from us, but we get a lot of functions. And we were talking before about how, for example, they digest the fiber or undigested food products and can create a lot of things, from energy to hormones to vitamins to immunological information to well-being to happy mood to good sleep. All those things depend on good intestinal bacteria, and I don't have to tell you. I mean, how many times you go and look at someone and you're talking to a person and you see that he's grouchy and, I mean, frowning, etc., and you say, well, what's wrong with you? And they refer you to something to do with their tummy. And they said, well, I have cramps. I mean, nothing else can change your face more than a cramp. A cramp is something you can see in people. People don't have to tell you I have a cramp. You can see people are getting a cramp. Probably you don't have the attention to that fact, but I have found so many people that I'm talking to them and I'm saying, I think you have a problem. Do you have any cramps? Do you have any discomfort? Oh yeah, I've been constipated for a few days, now I have cramps, or I have diarrhea, or I'm constipated for 3-4 days. It shows in your face. And I say, okay, let's have a little conversation because I think I can help you. And I can help them. Because we are neglecting our bodies in such an important way, not only in regard to bacteria, but to everything. We just think we have this body and we take it for granted, and nothing we do will upset it. That's why we have a strong body. We treat our bodies like a 4x4. I mean, you're even looking for challenges. Oh, I'm going to go to that hill and I'm going to go through the stones and I'm going to jump all over because it's a 4x4. Yeah, you might have a 4x4. Actually, you have a body that was created in perfection. But what about understanding your body and giving your body the support and help it really needs? Same with the 4x4. Yeah, you might have a great car. Nevertheless, you have to make sure you have proper tires. You have to see that the suspension is well taken care of, that the engine is in good shape, that the oil is changed because you were in the sand or in the desert, whatever. So you have to make sure you do something for that 4x4 so it continues delivering what you love about it. Same with your body. You can do a lot of things. We do a lot of things with our body. I mean, it was created in perfection. But we need to look into the body and say, where can I help? One of the areas where we can help the most is by helping the association between our body and all the microbial world that's around it and inside it. If we do that, those friendly bacteria, those friendly flora, are going to help us a lot, are going to do a lot of functions for us. I have heard many times that people say, I'm taking this type of water because I want to balance my pH. Or I'm going to use this cream because my skin is in this or that condition, etc. Well, we have talked about the health of the skin and particularly the health of aging skin. And we have mentioned that, yes, all those cosmetic lotions and household names that we all know about, they're very good for you. But they're very good in many ways because they help the bacteria on the skin. The drier the skin, the less bacteria can live on it. And the moist skin is going to help those bacteria to live happy and healthy. That's why if you go to, for example, to your forearms, the bacterial population is very low. Because normally it's dry, it's exposed to a lot of things. But if you go, for example, to your axillas or your groins, we have a lot of bacterial activity because it's humid, because it's warm, and because it has all the nutrition those cells need. the angle of your nose is very rich in bacterial activity. And guess what? Your eyelashes. I don't know if you have seen some of these videos that almost look scary, where you see the follicle with the hair coming out of it and little living things that come and look around, okay, as if they were some of those little prairie animals that sink in their holes and come out. Well, that is important. All of them are very important because they keep the health of your skin. They protect your skin from infections. The skin, we said it in the program where we talked about the skin health and aging. The skin is the largest area of confrontation between our body and the external world. It is subjected to a lot of aggressive things, from heat to dryness to extreme humidity to ultraviolet light to sand and abrasive things, chemical pollution, you name it. And those bacteria do a big part of the job in keeping our skin healthy. That's why we have to keep it moist. We have to make sure we keep it in good shape. We have to make sure that we keep a very rich blood flow to the skin so it can be healthy. How you do that? Don't eat sugar, don't smoke, don't drink alcohol. If you start doing those things, you help circulation. You're going to help everything. Remember, life is in the blood. So if we can improve the circulatory health of our skin, we're going to help our skin and every single organ in the body. Because once again, life is in the blood. The more blood flow we have, the better off we're going to be. Our mouths are very rich in bacteria, because now we're talking of a total different environment. That is absolutely moist, absolutely warm, absolutely protected. I mean, you can wash your hands and all these bacteria are going to drop off. But when you wash your mouth, you just take a little bit out of the mouth. And a lot of bacteria are going to keep on living. When we do a lot of things to destroy the normal flora of our mouths, we are more prone to develop infections, to develop gingivitis. Why? Because we are blocking a protective factor. I'm going to give you a simple example that is very easy to understand. In the Gulf of California, which was one of the preferred areas of exploration for Jacques Cousteau, there is a very important island. That's called the Shark Island. In that Shark Island, there were native people that were living in there, having good life, everything. And of course, one day, people started going there and see what they're doing. And what they saw is that they had abundant rattlesnakes. Okay, no problem. We can wipe them out. And they started fighting rattlesnakes, killing them virtually to the point of extinction in that island. You know what happened next? Those people were mad because they brought them from the rattlesnake to the mice infestation. Because mice started growing uncontrollably. And those mice were eating all the crops, all the plants of these people. So they went from a good coexistence with everything in the environment to also virtually to the edge of extinction because they didn't have any more food. You know the end of the story? They started bringing rattlesnakes from the mainland into the island. They needed those rattlesnakes. That's what kept the equilibrium. And people are happy again. They know how to deal with the snakes. And the snakes, they don't, we vilify them very many times, but many of them, they don't care for us. Of course, if we get on their way, that's the problem, but they're not chasing humans. We chase them. So the equilibrium came back, the crops were as usual, and everybody was happy. Same thing happens in our body. When you destroy a lot of your bacteria, then we start having problems. Because those bacteria that are very helpful to us are not going to be able to do the job, and something else is going to come in. Make no mistake, if you destroy some form of bacteria of your body, someone is going to take that place. Because once again, this microbial world has a lot of opportunities to mutate and make changes. So no matter what you use, you destroy these things, something else is going to come, take their place, and that might not be as friendly. That might be a nasty bacteria. Like once again, if we wipe out the normal Staphylococcus from the skin, you might get Staphylococcus aureus, and then you're going to have very important infections. Let's keep on talking. Don't go anywhere. I am Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. And today I'm talking about a subject that to me should be in everybody's minds and within everybody's reach. The understanding on how the microbial world has been so important for human life, for human survival. The profit that both parties get, the microbial world from us and what we get from the bacterial world, are enormous. They're so important that I'm not afraid of doing any mistake if I told you that without microbes we would not exist. Because they do a lot of the functions that we don't do. And not only with humans, but almost with every single animal and plant on the face of the earth. We live in a world that every single living thing depends in part for the health of something, of another living thing. Could be a plant, could be an animal, could be a fish, could be a tree, could be everything. We know that the coexistence and the profiting from one another has been one of the key factors on how life has progressed on Earth. And some of the problems, and here I want you to really think and meditate about it, some of the very important problems that we see at the doctor's office, at the hospital, at the emergency room today, are due to the fact that we did not understand that microbial world around and within us. And we somehow destroyed it. And we somehow altered it. And we somehow distorted it to the point of many times even close to extinction. And then life as we know it is no longer sustainable. And we start getting diseases. We know, for example, that we're looking at a very important immunological change in our life. We see it in the hospital. Let me talk about simple things like hives, or asthma, or food allergies, food intolerance, those simple things. I'm going to begin with very simple things. Why are they important? Because they're becoming more and more frequent, and because they were virtually unknown short time ago. By short time ago, I tell you that 100 years ago, if you opened a medical book, you have a lot of problem finding anything about asthma. And today, well, let me tell you, asthma is the #1 cause of young people hospitalization just after car accidents. It is that important. A lot of people have these acute asthmatic things, and some of them just suffer with them, they take medication, they do these things, more or less get along, they take antihistaminics and drugs and so forth, they take it for years and years and years, which means that we're not curing it. We are, once again, controlling it. But a lot of those kids are going to end up in an emergency room. And you say, where is this coming from? If 100 years ago was virtually unknown, and 50 years ago was kind of coming around, what have we done in these 100 years, particularly in the last 50 years, that now it's a rampant epidemic? Another good one is, for example, diabetes. Diabetes is a disease that's been known for many, many years, but we didn't have the number of cases that we have today. And we didn't have that many young people with this problem. And when you take a look at all these things that are happening, you say, well, I'm going to turn around the concept. If I gave you a house plant, and you see that your plant has a problem, and then the next one and the next one, you have to start paying attention. Something is happening. Or it might be that I have air conditioning and the heating is very high, so I'm drying these plants out. Or I forgot to water them. But you look for a reason. Why is this happening? Well, in the medical world, normally we say, you have this problem, I'll give you this. But what we have to do is we have to stop and think, what are we doing that we're producing this disease? Because if we didn't have it before, and now we have it, well, it means that we have done something wrong, or we stopped doing something good. In many cases, part of both is true. If you think of the history of mankind, if you go to the Middle Ages, and you think about the cholera, or the bad epidemics, like the black fever, for example, in the Middle Ages, where about 1/3 of the population in Europe died. Just think of that. 1/3. That is as if in the United States we kill, during the epidemic, more than 100 million people. That has to be scary. And then we discovered that cholera was produced by a bacteria, and then we discovered that the other one was produced by a microbe, and that tuberculosis, which is the main cause of death in the 19th century and the first part of the 20th century, is produced by a bacteria. Then you say, bacteria are killers. Bacteria are bad. we have to keep bacteria away from us, because bacteria are killing us. And to some extent, that's true. Bacteria were creating deadly diseases and deadly epidemics. Of course, in many ways, like in London, when just one single person with just a little bit of imagination discovered that if all the sick people came from the same well for water supply, the problem had to be in the well. And he discovered that the infection was in there and how it was produced. And then we cleaned our waste. We designed sewage and different ways to take care of our waste. And that literally saved mankind. And all that is important. I'm not saying it is not important. But to vilify bacteria and microbes to the point of wiping them out of the surface of the earth is costing us a lot. Every time I see a child with a little bit of flu, with a little bit of a problem, going to the doctor and he's giving an antibiotic, I panic. Because that antibiotic is going to upset the bacterial world of this child. And then gets out of these episodes of some form of diarrhea or some form of respiratory infections, and then they become adolescents and they develop skin problems and simple things like pimples, and they're given antibiotics again. So these people live on antibiotics through childhood and adolescence. How can they have a healthy flora? How can they have a healthy intestinal flora? How can they develop good immunity? How can they can be up to the challenge individuals? They're not. So they're going to suffer from aggression from a lot of things around them. A faulty intestinal flora, for example, is going to create a lot of what you see today. I cannot eat gluten, I cannot eat lactose, I cannot eat this and that. Why? Because the intestinal flora has been damaged. And nobody pays attention. You have to pay a lot of attention. You have to know how. You have to have the information. You have to do testing in order to say, you know, this person's intestinal flora has been damaged and we have to restore it and replace it. We can bring this person back to health because it's possible. But we are not going to fix if we don't recognize the wrong. Alcoholics Anonymous, they say, the first thing you have to do is recognize you're an alcoholic. Because if you do not acknowledge, why should you fix anything? If I'm well, if I'm fine, if I don't have a problem, what do you want me to fix? But if I begin by saying, yes, I'm an alcoholic, then I can take the steps to solve it. But the first thing is acknowledgement. And the same thing happens with intestinal flora and with flora of the body in general. We have to first of all understand how important it is, and second, that we have to take care of it. And that's going to be the beginning of healthier function, of a healthier individual, of a more apt person to lead a healthy life. This vilification of bacteria has led not only to the use of antibiotics, abuse of antibiotics, but also to a lot of chemicals to cleanse the world around us. And we use very harsh chemicals to do this. We clean everything, we wipe everything, we don't let children play because they might get infected. That is the world we have to change and understand. That's why I want you to stay with me and follow me in the next and final segment. You are with Dr. Rodrigo Rodriguez, Medical Director of BioCare Hospital. And today I have had a lot of excitement and happiness to have the chance to talk to you and to know that you have given me the opportunity to get into your life with information that I think can help you change your life. And it can change it simply, easily, and effectively, which is by getting to know the microbial world that lives around and within us. To understand that these bacteria, that these microbes, that these fungi, these even viruses and everything are part of our life. And that yes, they profit from living with us, but we also profit from them. And if you get into your computer, if you sit with your children, if you sit with your co-workers and bring up this subject, I'm sure you're going to stir a little torment around it, around this subject, because there are many people that are passionate against the microbial world, because we think of microbes as an evil thing. After all, we come from long time of being the victim, the prey of deadly bacteria and microbes. But on the other hand, many of the bacteria that were with us at that time helped us to survive, because they helped us to produce the antibodies, the even antibiotics. Our friendly bacteria can produce substances that are going to kill nasty bacteria. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we have the good bacteria. Now, I'm going to refer to many things that we always talk about without fully understanding how dynamic the human body is. I've heard people that say, I take alkaline water because my body is acidic. Yes, your body might be acidic because of the life you lead. Not because it's acid and if you put alkaline water you're going to solve it. No, you have to change the life you lead. What makes your body acid? Syrup, alcohol, refined sugar, overeating, obesity. So if you start changing all those things, your body is going to naturally become alkaline. Because that acidity of your body is not because you're just a base that's acidic. No, it's a very dynamic system that's responding to a lot of the wrongdoings you are getting every day. So if you start making those changes, yes, you're going to be healthier. If you eat, for example, a lot of beef, for example, and believe me, I enjoy beef, I like beef. I'm not a vegetarian or anything like that. I think we are omnivores, so we should eat everything. But we have to be conscientious. And sometimes I go and see a person with a tomahawk steak, 16 ounces. That's not for human consumption. And people brag about it. Oh, I can have a 16-ounce prime rib. Well, you're not helping your body. We have to be reasonable. We have to know what we're doing. Even apparently good things like exercise. Some people say, oh, I'm going to start running and doing this, etc., but they do it without any training. They do it without any conscientiousness of how and where they're going to do the thing. And all of a sudden, they're in the operating room because they hurt the knee, or because they hurt the joint, or they have problems now because they're suffering. Think again. If you go back 100 years ago or 200 years ago, children started by chopping wood and walking big distances to go to school and doing things. Of course, they develop a physical capacity. And they were always working according to their body's needs and potential. But you cannot all of a sudden wake up one day and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to get a bike and I'm going to start biking 10 miles every day. No, you need training. You need to talk to a professional that's going to tell you how to do it, how to elongate the muscles so you don't get any muscle strain, how to deal with your joints, how to warm up your body, so to speak, so you can do it. Everything needs a little bit of BioCare. Everything needs a little bit of conscientiousness and know your body to see how you can help it. Understand your body to know where you can help, or when what you think is going to be helpful might not be. And in the bacterial world, this is very important. The hospital I lead, BioCare Hospital, we have been working with these type of concepts ever since. That's actually the reason why BioCare was founded. And one of the areas that I have been very interested in, as all the staff, is the well-being of the microbial world in and within us. Because we understand everything those microbes do for us and how we can take care of them. We have to keep the density, the variety, the performance of those bacteria. And when I say bacteria, I want to stress the fact that bacteria are vegetable cells. So most of the intestinal flora are bacteria. Again, vegetable cells. So think of your intestinal flora as you think of your garden or house plants. What do they need? They need being watered. They need shelter and protection, and they need, very important, good nutrition. What do the bacteria eat? What we do not digest. They need fiber, and they need good types of food. They don't need refined sugar. They don't need vegetable oils. They don't need overwhelming amounts of food. They need to be regularly fed good quality of food, quality they can live on. That's what's called a prebiotic. A prebiotic is a substance that's going to get in your gut and it's going to be used by your intestinal flora to function and to create energy and to be healthy. And the most important one is fiber. So if you don't eat vegetables, you do not eat fiber, you're going to have a problem. So the first thing I have to tell you is we should have at least one meal for our intestinal flora. That's why I tell people you should have at least one very diverse, very complex, very complete salad a day. And it doesn't have to be big. You can have a nice bowl of carrots and apples. You can use vegetables and fruits, carrots and apples and lettuce and arugula and cucumber and you name it. Let your imagination go anywhere you want, but have a bowl of salad every single day. That's going to keep you in much better shape. You start doing it today, you're going to say in 1 week or 2 weeks, you're going to say, this guy knows what he's talking about. Some people are in very bad condition. So we have to do a complete intestinal flora replacement. And that's what we do at BioCare. We BioCare the quality, the diversity, and the functionality of all the microbes in your body. And we can even replace the full amount of intestinal flora because that can be done. All our patients get a regular amount of a nice complex of good bacteria that we apply every day. Because we want that intestinal flora to flourish, to be healthy, and to get you the well-being that you came looking for. I cannot do it for you. This bacteria will do it for you. So we cleanse the bowel and we replace the intestinal flora. We help it every day. And of course, from the nutritional point of view, we're always taking care of the intestinal flora. And you know what? It's going to be a very pleasant way. Because believe me, there's not one day where I don't go to the hospital's kitchen and make sure that what we are feeding our patient is good, palatable, and beautifully looking. I agree with you. Food should begin with the eyes. And if you can see a nice plate, you're going to eat it. And if it tastes good, you're going to eat it. And if you do that way, you're going to be healthy and thrive. Call our doctors. Call me. Follow me. Go to my social media and say, Doctor, how can I help my body to be healthier? I'm going to always be here for you.